Oh, absolutely. He's one of the greatest combat athletes of all time. If you can't learn from someone like that, there's something wrong with you.
So he emphasizes control.
Yes, he does. And he's absolutely a master of exerting control. The amount of grappling control he was able to put over some of the most difficult people in the world to control was truly astounding. He beat people from every style. He beat wrestlers, he beat jiu-jitsu players, he beat kickboxers, and he controlled them all in more or less the same way. He has a very underrated bottom game. People think, oh, he's just about stifling top control. But people forget he was taken down on several occasions and ended up in bottom position. And he showed excellent guard work from bottom. He was able to get into submission holds readily on opponents from bottom position. He's got an excellent bottom game. People say, oh, he's just a positional guy. No, he's not. He's got great submissions. Like the application of his triangle from both top and bottom was top class. He had a sharp arm lock from bottom position. Excellent Kimura. If you look at his Kimura finishes in MMA, they were technically very, very well set. Excellent breaking mechanics. He's a very, very fine grappler in both submission grappling and MMA grappling. I think we'd probably learn a ton from moving around with him.
Is it possible to learn something about him or about Roger Gracie or about Gordon by watching them or rolling around them for a little bit? So maybe Roger and Khabib are good examples because they're able to do seemingly very basic things on everybody and dominate them with that. I think Gordon is as well, but Gordon seems to have more preference and range of what he's able to do. It's almost miraculous how much Roger can do by just like the same exact thing on everybody. Yeah. Is that like, is it possible to understand why Roger or Khabib are so good at very basic positions? Or do you have to feel it, or do you have to, or is it just something that's developed over years?
I think for most people, for the vast majority of people, it would have to be explained to them. For a smaller group of people, if they felt it, they could try to replicate it. Yeah. And there are a few people who could look at it and have enough knowledge and say, okay, I can see what he's doing. Like, for example, Roger could probably look at video footage of Khabib grappling and say, okay, I understand what he's doing. But the average person, it would probably go over their heads.
If George St-Pierre and Khabib Nurmagomedov face each other in their prime, who wins?
Ooh, that's a very, very loaded question.
And how?
Yeah.
Like, what are the different trajectories you see? Okay, how does each one win in your view? If one wins or the other one wins, what happens?
Interestingly, they're actually very similar in size, despite the fact that George fought at welterweight and Khabib fought at lightweight. If you actually see them stand next to each other, they're of similar height. Khabib's actually a little more thick set. He's heavier than you. He's actually heavier than you walking around. George walked around most of his career between 188 and 191 pounds. And so Khabib actually would, ironically, have a kind of size and strength advantage, despite being in the lighter weight division. That's been the general trend as MMA has grown, is that athletes will come further down in weight to make weight divisions. I believe that George has the best takedowns in history in the open, in the cage. Khabib his great strength was using the fence to facilitate takedowns. Khabib's other great strength was not only his ability to take people down, but to keep people down for extended periods of time. Both of them were powerful strikers on the ground and could do terrible damage to opponents on the floor. So they're both very similar in that regard. Khabib was mostly a puncher from the back. George was mostly an elbower from the front. But both of them could lay waste to opponents with strikes on the floor. Both of them were highly competent with submissions on the ground. They weren't submission specialists in the sense of someone like Gordon Ryan, but they were certainly no slouches with submission holds. Yeah, it's just a fascinating idea.
So it's almost like who gets the first takedown.
Yeah, I do believe that they could probably stand up on each other. I don't think either one of them would be able to hold the other down for a whole round. Both of them are notoriously difficult people to hold down. So I don't think that whoever won the first takedown wins the match. I don't think it's like that. I do believe that George would hold a decisive advantage in striking and distance management. The few times that Khabib did look shaky is when Khabib was either advancing forward menacingly, but when he had to fight moving backwards, there was a definite asymmetry between his ability to fight going forwards, which was very good, and his ability to fight going backwards, which was noticeably weaker. George would often fight both forwards and backwards. With the Thiago Alves fight, most of the standing time, was going backwards. That's probably the single biggest difference between the two athletes in skill level would be in the standing position. On the ground, Khabib slight edge and takedowns on the fence, George slight edge and takedowns in the center. Ability to inflict damage on the floor, roughly equal. Ability to fight off the back, roughly equal. Ability to stand up from bottom, roughly equal. It's a very, very hard match. In terms of the biggest difference in skill level is going to be in the standing position. And so it would come down to, that doesn't necessarily mean that Khabib would lose in the standing position. He might just push it to the fence and just use match tactics where he kept the fight on the fence for significant periods of time. And you can win rounds in that fashion. So it's a match that could go either way. Both of them are absolutely the best that you'll ever see. I've always believed the three greatest mixed martial artists I've ever seen in my life were George St-Pierre, Khabib Nurmagomedov, and Jon Jones. The three of them have some interesting similarities and differences. All three beat every single person they ever faced. I know Jon Jones officially has a loss by DQ, but no one believes that was a loss. George does have 2 losses, but he defeated both athletes decisively in rematches. Khabib did it by having no losses. Interestingly, all 3 athletes have at least one match which is controversial in terms of who won and who lost. Jon Jones has had several matches which could have gone either way on the judges' scorecard. Khabib's match against Gleison Tibau could have gone either way. George's match with Hendricks could have gone either way. They all had matches that they won, which people would dispute the outcome. So that was a similarity between the 3 of them. All 3 of them have had the ability to dominate the direction of fights. When they want it to go down, it goes down. When they don't want it to go down, it doesn't. That's why I put such a heavy emphasis on that idea that a mixed martial arts champion must be able to determine the direction of a fight. It's the single most important attribute that they all must have. As to which of the 3 is the best, it's going to come down to criteria. You can't pull them apart. Which answer you give as to which of those 3 is the greatest of all time will come down to the criteria that you use. Okay, is it being undefeated? Is it the amount of time, or is it the quality of the opponents that they had? If you do it by quality of opponents, I think you probably have to give it to George. If you do it by measured dominance through not being defeated, then it has to go to Khabib. Arguably, you could say the same with Jon Jones, since his one loss is by DQ, but then you could also say the last 3 or 4 fights that John's had haven't been the same measure of dominance as we saw previously. So ultimately, you've got those 3 guys, in my opinion, and which one you choose will come down to who. It says more about who you are as a viewer than it does about the respective level of the athletes. You could throw a blanket over them. The 3 of them are just that good. And which one you select will probably say more about who you are as a viewer than it does about them as athletes.